Watching Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Nashville today. We are joined by Jimmy Matlock. He is a member of the Tennessee House of Representatives. And it pains me to ask you about a tragic story out of the state of Texas. It's regarding a woman whose name is Kari Dunn. Tell us about Kari Dunn.
Kari was a young mother who had 3 children with her in a hotel there in Texas when her estranged husband became violent with her, tragically stabbed her in the presence of those children, while the oldest child was attempting to access the 911 code. It was unaware, the child was unaware that there was a additional number required for the 911 to be utilized.
We think about we're at a hotel and you can't dial directly out. You often have to hit a 9 or a 0 or an 8 or whatever it is. You know, God bless this child. She was just trying, he or she was just trying to, help and save the mother, and yet there was no knowledge. And can you fault the child?
Well, the child tragically had just been in class the previous month, I understand, where they had gone through this exercise of when you come upon an event, you immediately go to 911. And her training taught her to continually press the buttons, attempt to reach out. Her mother was unfortunately the victim here, and because that particular instance had this access code, she was unable to do so.
And what we know is out of tragedy often comes a silver lining. And in the state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott did sign legislation which is now requiring that hotels, motels create their telephone systems so that a 911 number is going to go right to the authorities. How did you learn about this incident here in Tennessee?
We have in our community, in our county, a young lady named Jennifer Estes, who's the director of our 911. Jennifer is very proactive. As time has presented itself over the past 10 years, she's come to us now. This is the 3rd bill she's brought to us by being conscious of issues around the country. And in one of the settings where she's getting herself some training, she hears of the story. And so she comes back to us and says, we need this in Tennessee. The bill presently has been passed in 4 states.
Just 4?
Being considered in 4 others, counting ours, and hopefully at some point this will catch a wave that other states, and maybe even a federal issue.
And I'm wondering about that. Is this something that the Federal Communications Commission should address? Because look, if there's ever a place for uniformity, it's an emergency situation.
Well, and throughout our country, as you know, different states have guidelines and laws. And because of the differences between, this may be an instance where we are going to be starting in the state level, but ultimately we need to go to the federal level where every state would have to abide by this.
So let's talk about what's happening in Tennessee. You're carrying this bill. What are your friends in the hotel motel industry saying? Because look, ultimately it's a mandate and those can cause a little consternation, but
well, and that's a great point, because personally I'm one who generally resists mandates.
Of course.
I come from the business community, and those type of things we push back on. But in this instance, I think they have been very cooperative. As a matter of fact, we have had their representatives come to us along with those in the business community and say, here's how we believe this can be done.
How can it be done?
Well,
how will it work?
We structure the bill in such a way that as business goes forward and you are replacing through your normal business operations, upgrading and improving on this, that you will then be required to put this access exemption in place. And it doesn't force a business today, whether it be hospitality, tourism, or this very building in the state government is one that also, if today someone in our room were in need of a 911 and you didn't know that code, we would have to struggle.
So is your bill focused exclusively on hotel, motel, or are you looking?
The entire business community. This was applied to everyone. We're finding as we investigate this that more and more businesses are going away from that. And it was done
away
from this access code. Initially it was done to kind of keep security, to keep outside people from dialing numbers they shouldn't. but we're becoming aware. And frankly, many people today are using their mobile phones, or they're using those devices and have those accessible.
Which actually brings up a whole other host of issues, because does the mobile phone send you to the right 911 operator? Does it send you to the county or the city or whatever it may be? But let's focus here, because clearly you're onto something. So given that you are expanding this bill to include all businesses, what are their thoughts? It seems as if they seem to be willing to jump on board.
They really have, and I applaud the chambers of commerce and the business lobbyists and again the hospitality industry, because they see in what we're doing here that this is not just a good idea, this is life-changing.
But along those lines, if I can push you a bit, could one argue you should be mandating this today?
Well, again, I'll take that position.
Right.
I have a little resistance to that personally, because I know in every area, while there's good, and particularly in a bill like this, we're very sensitive to saying to a business in any area, you have to do this.
And you have to expend the funds right now, and what if they don't have the funds? And I got you. Do you have a sense what's happening in the other 4 states? Is the approach that you're taking similar to what happened in Texas or otherwise?
Most of the legislation, I understand, is modeled after Texas.
Which was a do-it-as-you-go approach when you replace.
Yes.
So how is the bill moving?
Well, we have come through the initial 2 committees, which in our form here in Tennessee, those are the most difficult to get through. And we've been kind of working with those. We've actually been there for about 3 weeks trying to talk through and what we call flesh out these challenges and these problems. We feel good now because others have stepped forward to say, hey, why don't you do it like this? Why doesn't this be considered? So now we would go into the next level, which is an area that we feel we should be successful in, and ultimately get it before the body. And we think when they understand what we're doing and the fact it is not a mandate, that we'll have total support. Now, you may not be unanimous, but we think we're very strong.
Now, what about your friends on the Senate side? Because they can be a little persnickety when it comes to these issues.
They can, and while we love those guys,
of course we do.
They have a different line of thinking in many cases. But my understanding from their sponsor is they.
You do have a sponsor.
We do, and they're working through the same process. I think they are at level 2, and will be quickly going before their floor vote, which may just be the very weak hours goes through.
Okay, so let me shift gears slightly, if I may, and just speak with you about transportation. I know that's in your wheelhouse. Lots of discussions about how best to fund transportation projects. There's discussions about the gas tax, the gas fee, whatever you may want to call it, has not been increased since 1989. The governor is poking around on this issue. What are you hearing amongst your caucus, amongst your constituents?
Well, I think a couple of things. The governor spent an entire year now traveling the state, listening to people, trying to understand the needs in every community. And they are different, of course. And I think what he's come back to understand, and we all are paying great attention because this affects us and every constituent who pays this, is that we do have a need. We see more efficiency among the automobiles mandated from the federal government. And,
so gas taxes are going down because you're not collecting as much, they're not using as much gas.
And of course we have new automobiles that are run on different sources, electric vehicles, hydrogen, propane, those that don't pay a fee. So we're trying to understand a comprehensive way. And the larger issue, I guess, in my way of thinking is, what does this do to our state? We've been very blessed in Tennessee. We have what most say is the 3rd highest level of road and the 3rd lowest payment. So there's a real disconnect between what we think we've done efficiency-wise and the amount of money that our constituents are paying. But at the end of the day, we've got to have a way to move forward, recruit new industry, bring in new jobs, and I see this from an economic development aspect as a critical element to move Tennessee up even farther or higher.
So when you come back, I'd like to talk to you more about this issue. It's an important one.
Sure.
And I want to hear more about Kari's Law, how it manages through this august body. His name is Jimmy Matlock. He is a member of the Tennessee House of Representatives. My name is Brad Pomerance in Nashville. It's Charter Local Edition.